Now I'm asking her to yield her hindquarters. See how she's starting to give me a nice step sideways. And this is a little confusing for horses at first because she's trying to say, well, a minute ago you just wanted me to stop. And so what I want her to start discerning is the difference of, is my leg actually asking her to do anything differently? If I pull on her head and my legs are relaxed, that means stop. If I'm asking her to give with her head and I'm asking her with my leg to move, then that means to yield away from the pressure. So she's moving forward and around, but she's starting to step a little bit sideways as she's starting to figure it out. And I like is that she keeps trying and trying. What's frustrating when you're doing these exercises if you get a horse that's rather dull or chooses just to ignore you. That's always more work. You can see she's licking and chewing and she's starting to figure it out. There, her ears go back to me. She's waiting for the next thing, see what we're going to do. Now I'm just going to walk for a minute. I like to get these basic one-rein stops, move her hindquarters, because it gets her body kind of loose and gumby. It's like stretching your hamstrings out before you go for a run. Get all your body parts nice and flexible. Now I'm asking her to move her shoulders over a little bit. This member from the ground was the more complicated exercise for her. So you can see that she's like, I think I kind of remember doing that. So it wasn't her favorite thing from the ground, so it's still not her favorite thing from the saddle. And now she's also having to manage my weight. But I'm giving her just a couple steps of try, and then I stop and pet her and tell her, good girl. So that way she starts to understand pretty quickly. One of the other things that you start to see with your horses is as you go through this process and you reward them with a good girl when they do it, this translates for everything else that you continue to try to teach the horse. Because they know when you tell them, good girl, they've just done a very good thing. So it actually increases how quickly they learn as they go. So I'm going to walk off and I'm going to stop. I'm going to ask her to move sideways again. Again, you can see I'm not worried about where her nose is and where her head is, one thing at a time. So today we're just looking for her to move that shoulder over. Good girl. You can see she licks and chews for a second, and her ears are back at me. And she's starting, what I really like about doing these exercises is if you ever got on a horse that's felt really tight in their back and you're not really sure kind of what they're feeling like doing, the more and more you do this and her head starts dropping and stretching herself out, the more and more united we become, and it develops my trust in her back, and it develops her trust in me because she knows that I'm not just going to spring something on her. She knows that there's a process, I'm going to ask her to do something, and then I'm going to tell her, good girl. So it just starts building our communication. And we're going to be doing this groundwork before we get into any actual real dressage, because this is what builds our trust and our working relationship. Because once we start getting into work that's a little more difficult and a little more precise, it's hard to do that if we don't have this basic foundation built. Now look right there how she's starting to give it her jaw. Her head and neck are stretched out, nice and relaxed. This is what's coming as the result of warming her body up and asking her to move fluidly versus just getting on there and trying to get her into some kind of a position right from the get-go. It really does. The head and neck is the end result of what you've done with their body versus the other way around. Now as I'm walking, I'm just playing with very subtle, moving her hindquarters over. So I'm walking around a circle, but I'm asking her to yield her butt over for a couple steps, and then we go straight. So now I'm taking what we did in a very large movement and starting to refine it just a little. I'm also asking her, rather than bringing her whole head and neck around, just to yield that jaw at the pole just a little bit. We'll keep refining that. I've had some instructors that don't like me to bend the neck past the shoulder, and that's true absolutely when you get into the refinement of dressage, but right now we're just in the basics where I just want her to follow the feel of pressure wherever I ask her to take it. So for the dressage, I want to be able to limit it to just the point of the shoulder, but I also want to be able to take it all the way around to my knee if I ask. So I want her, Ava, to start to understand the differences in what I'm asking. And then it also forces me as the rider to go, okay, what's too much? And then, okay, what's enough? I remember when I was learning to fly, I always hated flying with the instructors that never let me push the bounds just a little bit. Because it was kind of scary to go out and fly when you're by yourself if you've never pushed the bounds a little bit, because then you're always afraid to step out of line because you think you're going to screw something up or do something wrong or dangerous. And you want to be able to play back and forth and feel like, okay, that was definitely too much. Okay, then that's just enough. So right now, Ava is giving me some pretty nice leg yields from behind. As we go around the circle, I just walk straight, and then I ask for a little bit of hind leg. So it works as the rider. It's developing me as much as it is her, where I can say, okay, that was enough. And then next time I can ask for a step and go, whoa, okay, that was way too much. But breaking it down into nice simple pieces and focusing on one task at a time is helpful for the horse, but it's helpful for me as the rider. And it's my hope that next year when I'm making videotapes for you all that I'll be much more advanced and have learned a lot more. But I want to continue to document and share my journey as I go and have this as a reference for you, but also as a reference for me to see, okay, what was the process? How did I learn how to do that? Because it's so much easier to teach other people when you've gone through the process of explaining what it is that you're doing yourself. So now we're going to do a little bit of nose to the fence leg yield and just break it up a little bit. You can see Ava's getting better and better at this movement. You know, I've got the peanut gallery up there.